Welcome to Random and Tandem. I'm your co host, Eliza.
And I'm Natalie. Today we have a special guest joining us for the podcast. Sophia, welcome to Random in Tandem.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, Thanksgiving weekend is over, almost over. Today is Black Friday. By the way, are you doing Black Friday shopping?
Obviously not. I'm here.
No,
No.
I bought something off of Amazon today.
that
I know.
doesn't count.
Well, I know like everyone's like, don't give Amazon your money and this and that, but they have this pepper grinder that I've been wanting for a really long time and it's back in stock, so had to buy it.
Amazon gets all my money. I'm sorry.
I've spent so much money on Amazon lately. It's insane. It's disgusting.
It's just.
Do you have
it's
Amazon Prime, Sophia?
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah, me
Who
too.
doesn't? Comment down below. Is there a comment box down below? I don't know the format
Yeah.
of this. Comment down below if you don't have Amazon Prime because you need to find someone to share your account with, their account with you. Think about all the rambling you're gonna have to edit out right now.
all good.
That's
I
an
might
easy
leave
one.
You might leave it in. Why
Maybe,
not?
we'll see. Oh, so Sophia,
So Eliza,
you. Thank you. You are recently single in the single life.
I am.
How are you enjoying that?
There are good days and there are bad days. Maybe I'll give everyone my backstory. Set the scene.
Yes.
So I was previously married. I met my ex when I was 21 and thought that I was, at that point in time, had never dated, never had a boyfriend or anything like that, and thought that I was going to die an old maid because what I have realized is I came from like a weird pocket of something where like so many people that I knew from high school were in long-term committed relationships, and at this point in time like a lot of them married each other. Like it's just like very odd. My friend and I were talking about it and we probably like listed off 15 couples just off the top of our heads that dated in high school and are married now, or knew each other in high school and are married now. Really odd. So I was convinced at 21 that I was going to be an old maid and I was never going to find anyone that would love me and this and
Is
that.
that is that like a small town thing?
I
Or
didn't
no?
grow up in
No.
such a small town though. We were like 15 minutes north of Seattle, so it's like
Oh, no.
not technically a small town.
Right.
I don't know the population. Um, and I mean that's not why I was with my ex, but I think in hindsight, like that certainly probably contributed. So, anyways, met him when I was 21. Um, dated for a while, was engaged for a while. We got married in 2015. And then 2020, the year of all things wonderful, we are getting divorced now. And so I find myself at 33, being single after a 12-year relationship, dating for the first time in my life, and experiencing my first ever breakup, too, which is a really odd experience, I think. And living by myself for the first time. I think those are kind of like the three big things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah, those are pretty big things.
I
Um,
was just thinking.
I Sorry, I can't tell if my computer's freezing or not. Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't.
A little bit.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, cool. I broke up with my long-term partner. We weren't married, but might as well have been. We were together for many, many years, and so we broke up 2 years ago. And I found myself in a similar spot where I was single for the first time, really in my life, because I had dated back to back. Definitely one of those people, and definitely living by myself for the first time, and just kind of doing all of those things. And it was interesting in a lot of ways. Very hard, very painful to deal with. I think a lot of, feeling lonely, and I can't do this. I don't know how to live on my own. What if something happens? I might burn the place down. Um, and but also being able to like explore myself and what does Eliza like? Is it are the things that I've been doing because I was in a relationship, or exploring more about myself, and definitely spending a shitload of money on things. Just why not? I don't know. There's this freedom that comes with being single. Obviously, like it doesn't just have to be um, being sad and the heartbreak and all those things. There's a lot of fun in exploring yourself, I think. Um, have you been doing any of that?
Yeah, so I mean, I got to keep our place, and so he moved out and got a new place, and we kind of split some stuff up. And there were some things where I was like, I would really like for you to take this. For instance, I really wanted him to take the couch so I could get a new couch because I'd been wanting a new couch. um, and so yeah, like, how long has it been since he moved out? Probably like a month and some change. Um, and I have spent that month and some change really spending time redecorating the place and making certain spaces like the bedroom really my own and making it feel new, and to not necessarily remind myself of like this home that we had built for the last 3 years. Um, and so that was a really good distraction. And now that and a money sink, obviously. Um, and so now that that's done, and maybe because of the holidays approaching and stuff and not being able to go home to see my family, that kind of sadness is setting in a little bit more. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I mean, you definitely can't avoid that, especially during the holidays.
right.
Um,
I think what's interesting that comes with, as someone who is fairly emotionally mature, I'll say that about myself. Why not? Toot toot. And so I think it's interesting. And if we want to try to be optimistic, I think what's interesting is that I'm dealing with my first breakup at 33 versus at 16 or 18 when people are not as emotionally mature, right? And so I think the kind of melodramatic, as dramatic as it is, I mean, like getting a divorce is traumatic, right? And ending a 12-year relationship, married or not, is traumatic in its own way. But I think a lot of the melodrama is cut because I'm an adult who is emotionally mature, right? Or
yeah.
emotionally
Yeah.
intelligent. And so, um, and I have been in therapy for the last, I guess, almost 2 years ish, leading up to this. And I had started therapy for other reasons. And so I do very much credit the fact that I am handling this fairly well because I had already been working on myself emotionally and mentally. And so it's this idea of like all my emotional tools had been sharpened and honed and ready for something like this potentially. Like
Hmm.
obviously I hadn't planned for it.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm very thankful for that. And so I think it's interesting that a lot of people are kind of shocked that I'm taking this as well as I am.
Mm.
And there's an insecurity in me where I wonder if people think that I am either hiding my emotions and avoiding them, or that I'm like heartless or something and I don't
Mm.
care or whatever. There are weird insecurities that pop up throughout this
Sure.
entire adventure.
Well, I'm curious, when you said you met your husband ex when you were 21,
Hmm.
so and were you comfortable being single at that time when you were growing like the, young adult? Do you remember that experience? Or
I
did
remember
you like, oh no?
I was not comfortable as a single person at 21. So, another fun fact about Sophia is that I have been overweight for the majority of my life. So, I lost a ton of weight between the ages of like 18 to 22 ish. Like, I was fairly thin. And then I didn't really understand nutrition and calorie balance and all that kind of stuff. And so whatever weight I'd lost at 18, 19, I slowly gained back. And over like the next 10 years, I basically got back to the size that I was at 18. In 2018, I experienced some health issues. And so in order to sort that out, I've lost more weight than I did when I was 18. So I'm thinner than I was at 18, which had previously been the thinnest I'd ever been. And so, like, at 18, I do 18 to like 21, basically, when I met my ex. It was very much a thing of, okay, well, because up until that point, you know, I had all these crushes in high school and they were all unrequited, and I felt very just kind of disgusting and not desirable because no boy had ever reciprocated a crush for me. So like my insecurities as far as like what I look like physically run so deep and are just, you know, just really deep.
Sure.
And I had always thought if I could just be skinny, everything will fix itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 18 comes, drop all this weight, look pretty good. Like I felt pretty good about how I looked. No boys, right? And so it was very like I remember I had this crush on this dude from high school. Um, and it was like the first guy that I'd really had a crush on since losing weight. And we got along really well, I thought, but he just wasn't attracted to me, and it was very much like a slap in the face of okay, you know what I had thought would have been the case turned out to
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was very uncomfortable with being single. And you know, in retrospect, yeah, I think I clung to my ex in some ways because he was so good to me and he loved me so much and it felt so unconditional, and it was for a really long time. Um, and I mean, up until we split, I think we loved each other very unconditionally. Um, and so it feels like nothing has changed. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he was
Yeah.
inserted into my life and then he removed himself, and I'm right back where I was at 21,
Yeah.
feeling insecure about being single. Yeah, and hating it. I don't hate it right now, but I definitely have moments where I hate it right now.
Do you think it's something that you'll do you think you're better equipped to get used to it now than you were or when you were in your teens, early 20s?
Yeah. I think it's because I mean when I went straight from living with my parents because I didn't live on campus in undergrad to living with him. And my parents, as much as I love
Got it.
them, are what's the word I want to use? Have a lot of rules as far as living under their roof. And so I didn't have a lot of freedom to do whatever I
Yep.
wanted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think this situation is different because I live by myself now, have my own place, don't have to live with my parents. So it changes the dynamic of being alone and being single. A. B. I think that I am much more confident in who I am physically, yes, but more importantly, emotionally and who I am as a human being, way more comfortable with that. And I think that certainly helps too. And so
Okay.
I don't hate being single as much as I would have anticipated.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason why I asked about, early 18 or early 20s is because I wonder if some of that experience then prepares us for whatever is happening in the future, because like I never had boyfriends either at all. And in Ukraine, it's like I don't know why I didn't have a boyfriend. It wasn't I had a lot of boy friends, so like guy friends, but not necessarily romantic relationships. And I was like, you know what? I guess it's not gonna happen or whatever. I need to become comfortable being alone and just enjoying what's going on. And I just told myself early on that, nah, it's okay. If I'm gonna be alone, I'm gonna be alone. Like I don't have to like search
Mhm.
for the husband and get married by 21 and have 3 kids by 27. And once I made that once I let go of that, it was really easy. And then I was like, oh, and then I find this person and things just happen. It wasn't internally like worrying all day, every day, So was just different. And I'm just curious, maybe because you did have some of those years of being single now is helping you readjust again. I don't know,
I
maybe
think that's wait, so how old were you when you met your husband?
21.
You're 20. Okay. um I always find that interesting when we talk about adolescence and then you have someone like me who's like, I literally wanted nothing more than a boyfriend. That is all I wanted. That is what I obsessed about and everything. And I knew other girls my age who were very much like Natalie in that if it happens, it happens. This is my life. It's not a big deal. And there's such a part of me that wishes I had been that person, you know, because as someone who identifies as a very strong feminist, like I hate that at the age of 8, like 16 to 8, 13 to 18, whatever, all I could ever think about was I need a boy to complete my life and make me happy.
I mean, I was the same way.
Okay.
Completely, absolutely. I think mine comes from my childhood trauma though, and just needing someone,
Hmm.
to love me and needing someone to be there. But I think a majority of it also is society. I'm going to blame society. I
Always.
mean,
Always.
always, it's always their fault. It's, well, I mean, I too know, grew up with women, not when they were kids, teenagers at the time, similar to Natalie, where they didn't need, that wasn't their priority, that wasn't their concern, but they were few and far between. Most of the girls that I grew up with, most of my friends, I mean, it's about having a boyfriend, girlfriend. It's about having sex and a partner and love and all the, like, that's just, and my group of friends, I mean, yeah, at 12, 13, yeah. I mean, there's just a group of us like this. That's just what we knew. Like that, it was somehow ingrained in us. Like that's what we were supposed to be doing with our time at that age, which is, going after boys.
Hmm.
And that was the important thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I
And
think like, go ahead.
I'd like to add one thing is that when I'm thinking about my state back then, 18, 19, no boyfriends, and everybody that I know has a boyfriend or had several boyfriends, I'm thinking that maybe I just created this emotional wall not to allow myself be hurt because obviously I would question what's wrong with me. How
Mm,
come
mm,
these people have partners or boyfriends and being attractive and whatever, and I don't have that. So obviously I had those feelings. I realized that it's just me creating that little barrier or wall, not allowing me to just be fully kind of like, I don't know the right word here.
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable, yeah, and let others kind of control my state. But then the society would quickly remind me that something's wrong with me.
mm-hmm.
People would tell me, "Oh, how come you're single? Oh, you're 20 and you don't have a boyfriend." And that was the most painful thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I could see that. But I gotta say, major props to you for being able to, even if it is maybe unhealthy to put up a wall and not feel things, good for you. That's the way to get back at society. You're standing up, and I really wish that I had the ability to do that. I can now, and it's taken years. It's taken three years of therapy and my psychiatrist, but I'm getting there. you know, I wish that I had that ability. I wish more people had the ability to say, no, relationship is not the most important thing in life right now for me. But that's hard. That's really hard to do, and I think that is society.
Sorry, I think it's especially the case for girls and women too.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, and as again, like it's so interesting because to me it's like I am a strong feminist. I have always prioritized being able to take care of myself and never
Yes.
be
Yep. Yep.
concerned that, like, as a kid, I remember telling my mom, like, I want a good paying job. I don't need someone to take care of me. If my husband ever decides to
Hmm.
leave me, like, I want to be able to take care of me and my kids. At the time, I still wanted kids, and all that kind of stuff. So that was so ingrained in me. It was so natural for me to feel that I needed to be an independent ass woman that could take care of myself on my own, stand on my own 2 feet.
Hmm.
But I think it's this dialogue of a woman still needs a man, right? And
Yeah.
I bought into
Yes.
that from like an
Yes.
emotional standpoint, not necessarily from a financial provider standpoint.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's been emotionally crippling in a lot of ways to think that at the time at 21, I definitely thought like I am incomplete without a partner. you know
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
now at 33, being freshly separated, single, divorced, whatever you want to call it, um i I am dating right now casually, but
Hmm.
um
We'll come back to that.
yeah, we will. um but there's no like I have to have a man to complete me.
Hmm.
Genuinely, it is a I mean, we're in a global pandemic.
Yes.
I've
Yep.
had a partner who lives with me for 12 years, and to tear that away from me all of a sudden, it's lonely.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
I think what I'm looking for right now is not a relationship. I am 100% aware that I'm not emotionally available for a relationship, but it's companionship.
Yes. Yeah.
Just having a person that's just a little bit more than a friend,
Yep.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very natural to me. That's where fulfilling the natural desire, need, whatever it is, to just be with someone else.
But I think it's interesting because I think there's a lot of judgment around that too. That, I have friends and acquaintances that are like, it's really early. Should you be doing this? Like, should you be opening yourself up for this? Are you thinking about why you're doing this? X, Y, and Z? And I guess like I'm of the mindset that I will do what I think is best for me overall,
Hmm.
and I suffer the consequences if there are any. But like
Yeah.
I do what I want. I think about it. I try to be as clear about it as possible. Obviously not
Hmm.
always the case. Um, and I stand firmly in my decision. And then if something bad comes from it, it is what it is. And that's what being an adult is accepting the consequences for your actions, in my opinion.
Yeah. You're owning
So
that. You're thinking ahead. I think that what really bugs me about when people say stuff like that, like what people are saying, like, shouldn't you wait? It's too, like, whatever. Um, well, A, they don't know all of the moving parts going on in the relationship that you had that led to that. How long has it been? I mean, I think, how long has it been since you guys, really had a good, close romantic relationship? Maybe it had been dead for a while. Not you specifically, but definitely in my case. Where it just became more of a, we were best friends living together. We weren't romantic anymore. So it's not, if you look at it that way, no, it's not right away. It's been quite some time, actually. And if you look at it that way, which I think more people should. And I wonder if it's something that's more of just an American culture and how it is viewed in other societies, I guess. That makes sense. I don't know.
do you know of other societies where this is not as much of a discussion, where someone goes from a relationship to a relationship or whatever?
No, I don't specifically, but I feel like Americans are we're sensitive ninnies. We're sensitive, man, and we get so uptight and butthurt about so many things more than other societies do. I feel like we're just, I don't know. I mean, I feel like in Germany, for example, that they don't use like online dating. a lot of relationships grow from one night stands. They date around, and if a relationship happens, it happens. I don't know if that's true for anyone listening from Germany, but I'm single and I'm going to move into Berlin in case you guys are single. Anyways, plugging that out there.
Please comment. Please
um,
comment down below if you're interested.
yes,
Sorry, I just put that out there for you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, but I don't feel like that's the case here. I feel like dating around or having one night stands, it's a no no. It's I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with any of
I mean,
that.
that makes sense because in college I took a oh god, what was it called? Sex in Scandinavia class, and it was a lot of it was just talking about how Europe teaches sex education and how they handle sex in their popular culture in general, versus America. And one of the discussions was, in the US, how there are still lots of areas that teach abstinence only, or at least at the time. I don't
Mm,
keep up with that. I'm sure there are still tons of schools that teach abstinence only currently,
yeah, they are.
2020. Yeah.
There are.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Doesn't
Yep.
work. Okay. Uh, just to make our uh, opinions clear.
Yes.
But yeah, this idea, and so like the professor for the class was Scandinavian, and she was telling us a story about how she saw this like abstinence only talk once, in the US, where they had like a paper heart, and they're like, every time you sleep with someone, you're giving them a piece of your heart, and then they start like ripping off chunks of this paper heart and like
Mm-hmm.
throwing it wherever. And it's like, and the more people you sleep with, the more of your heart you give away, right? And until eventually, like,
Mm-hmm.
you have no heart left. And the professor was like, I was mortified when I saw this, because what are you teaching young people? And so I think like we have this culture, even for sex positive people. I think there is an ingrained culture in America that having casual sex is bad, you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of judgment around people who maybe don't see it as seriously, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Absolutely.
So, as someone that comes from Ukraine, and the only sex education we get is Christian ethics classes in school, which is not sex education. Basically, it says no sex until you're married. So, whatever Eustace Sophia was saying, still teach that in Ukraine. And from all the Hollywood movies, we quickly learned that in the US, all young people are extremely promiscuous. So, when I come here as an 20-year-old for my education and I go to college and I notice these young people, having one night stands and boys approaching me for the first time, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is weird. And I'm Catholic at that point in time too, like hardcore. um, I will be honest with you that in comparison, Ukraine is really still traditional. US is more sex positive, anyways. The only thing that I will say is that there is still a lot of that conversation. Oh, the girl shouldn't be doing this, the girl shouldn't be doing this, but not so much about the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we go into that
Mm-hmm.
weird dichotomy. And like, and I want to say double standard, right? The double standard one.
Mm-hmm.
So we treat people differently. But then I learned to accept everybody's lifestyle, right? Like, hey, if this is something you want to do, please go do it. But I want to make sure that they also respect my approach to life. Like, I still feel like I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be able to do like one night stands and things like that, which is okay, right? So just to kind of tell you that post-Soviet world, there is no sex in that world still. Although it was like in Soviet Russia,
Mm-hmm.
kids just being sold in the stores, you
It's
know?
not funny. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Interesting.
very primitive and very
Yeah. I didn't realize
stone.
that. I didn't realize it was that. Okay. It's interesting.
But I mean, that's like the case in a lot of cultures, because I haven't been to Japan, but My really good childhood friend did, and so did my brother. And they were discussing how like there is this like very prevalent kinky sex culture there, where
Interesting.
you can go to, there are certain hotels like you go to them and it's like just to go maybe sleep with a prostitute or something like that. And like, any listener that knows better than me, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding, is that there's this kind of like very closeted kinky sex world that people will never admit to being part of because sex is still such a taboo conversation, right? And arguably you can say that about any country. You could say that about the US, right? Like we have people who, will be like,
Yep.
sex is terrible and WAP is a terrible song and these women are going to go to hell. And then they're going and sleeping with their um, mistresses, So
Yep. Yep. I
probably
mean,
not specific to any one country, think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
well, but some countries might be more kinky than others. That could be,
And less taboo about things in general, yes.
yes. Yeah.
But if we're talking about any sort of closeted stuff, there's no country that is immune to that, in my opinion.
And that's a wrap for the first part of our conversation with our dear friend Sophia. Be sure to join us next Tuesday for the second half and hear about our adventures in online dating.